We're going to talk about raising a child in the age of technology. Before we start, let's pray. We're taking this prayer from the book of Habakkuk, who prayed over the people and said, "Revive us again, Lord, sweet and tender mercies. Revive thy works in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, Lord, make known in wrath. Remember mercy." Amen. Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 ways technology is impacting the brain. The first way is empathy. It's impacting empathy. So the question is, what is empathy? Empathy is also actually an automated function of the human brain. You don't have to do anything to it. It's just there. Automatically, you start out being driven to have empathy. Empathy works like this. Whenever you see an emotion displayed, any place out there in the environment, if you see it, it triggers mirror neurons in your brain. Mirror neurons set a template of the emotion you just saw. It activates motor neurons. That means your brain actually acts like you're doing the emotion that you're seeing. All emotions release chemicals to your brain. So for example, if you force yourself to smile, you actually change your brain chemistry for the better. If you were to force yourself to frown, you actually change your brain chemistry for the worse. So it actually changes your brain chemistry. This allows us to understand people socially. To show you how important this is, consider folks who don't have operative mirror neurons. Kids with autism don't have operative mirror neurons. That means you can tell them what the emotion means, but it's the feeling of the emotion that gives us an understanding socially. So we are wired to look at certain things in other people. We're wired to look at face, hands, posture, gestures, and tone of voice. As a result, we now know that you're seeing all these things through these parts of people's body. So our eye system automatically does this. Let me give you an example of an experiment. In this experiment, they have people stand up, they hook them under fMRI, and when they're under the fMRI, they put these glasses on them. Next slide, please. They put these glasses on them, and the glasses measure pupil dilations. Every time you shift focus, your pupil size changes for a fraction of a second. Okay, they say, look at the dot on the wall. They put 2 people to 15 degrees to their peripheral, and they say, okay, anytime you want, make a facial expression really quick and then stop. So the person looking at the dot on the wall, anytime any of the 2 people make a facial expression, we saw pupil dilation change. That means they saw it even though they weren't looking. Then we saw mirror neurons activate, changing motor neurons, changing their brain chemistry. Okay, they put the people to 30 degrees to the peripheral. Look at the dot on the wall. They were instructed to do the same thing. Even though they were 30 degrees to the peripheral, guess what? The minute they did it, pupils dilate. That means the brain focused even though you didn't see it. Guess what happened? Mirror neurons activated, motor neurons activated, changed their chemistry. They said, okay, we'll have 2 people do different expressions at the same exact time. Guess what happened? The brain saw both. You say, how's that possible? The largest feature of your eyes are called microsarcades. Microsarcades are a scanning feature of your eyes. They never stop moving. If you put your hands about this far, that's the range of microsarcades. One of the things microsarcades are pre-wired to do is notice any emotion, any place in your peripheral, and it changes your chemistry. So we now know that we are designed to pay attention to emotions, and emotions impact us, and understanding that gives us empathy. Let me give you an idea of what this looks like. Here's a chart that tells us how our brains develop empathy. Age 1, we now know when we hook kids under fMRI, when mom's happy, baby's brain's happier. When mom's sad, baby's brain is sadder. But babies don't understand the nuance of emotions. Something happens between 9 and 10. Kids start getting really accurate at understanding a range of emotions. A significant thing happens between 13 and 14. Accuracy continues to improve, but response kicks in. You see, empathy is supposed to move us to action. We're not supposed to, I see you're in pain. We're supposed to help us, to motivate us to action. Between 20 and 39, we're supposed to get to our peak, recognizing really well, responding really well. Anytime I say this, I know some young ladies sit out there going, dude, I have dated some guys between 20 and 39. They didn't read my emotions well, and they didn't respond very well. And I'll say, you're probably right. We now know that higher levels of testosterone mutes empathy response. So my advice to you young ladies is stop dating macho dudes. Between 50 and 64, what happens is the chemicals released in our brains in response to the emotions of other people lowers a little. This is supposed to be the age of wisdom and control. That means if someone shows us a pissed off face and we're 55, it no longer impacts us as strongly. Because we're supposed to be more in control of our lives. We're supposed to be entering the age of wisdom. Let me make sure you understand what I'm saying. If you're 60 and responding to people the same way when you were 25, you need a brain checkup. A percentage of people, when they get to 65 or older, start to lose the ability to pick up negative cueing. This is why the elderly are targets of scams. They're playing a numbers game. Try. If I pick the person that loses that ability, they can't tell that I'm being sinister. They can't tell that I'm being deceptive. They'll miss it. This chart has been effective for years. It was a guide for us. This chart is out the window now. We cannot use it. This chart's assuming certain things. This chart's assuming that all through my life, childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, later on in life, that I've done two things. I have had a percentage of face-to-face conversations, and I've already dealt with a bunch of different kind of emotions, and what that does for my brain is it makes my brain more efficient in understanding and dealing with emotions. Well, the number of face-to-face interactions is going down. Number one way of communicating in America? Texting. Well, we neuroscientists tested texting, and we found out there is no empathy response secreted by texting. Actually, it makes your brain lazy. Don't act like you don't know what I'm thinking about. Okay, you're at work. This has been one of the worst weeks in your work. Your supervisor has been on everyone in the department. Everyone's under stress. He's hammering you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All the staff is getting together. They're going down to the pub, have a couple of drinks, and talk bad about the boss. Now you have to inform your wife that you're going. You have two options. You can call her or you can text her. What you gonna do? You just figure it out. If I call her, I'll still know her emotions. But if I text her, easy peasy. Hey, honey, the department guys want me to go out with them. I really didn't want to go, but they're forcing me. I will call you before I head home and bring you something to eat. Love you, easy peasy, done. Well, here's the catch, folks. Empathy has been dropping for 50 years. It's taken a nosedive in the last 10. Yes, we're less empathetic than people who were in 1970. Empathy's been dropping. Big deal, huge deal. You see, empathy forces me to be concerned about other people. If I lose empathy, who's the most important person? Me. If I lose empathy, whose opinion matters most? Me. If you lose empathy, you're no longer cooperative. You want me to prove it? Who are the people who don't have empathy? Sociopaths and psychopaths. Sociopaths can hustle every penny from your grandmother and feel no pain. Psychopaths can do unspeakable things and see no pain. You can't do that because when you see other people, you feel what they feel. That's what empathy is supposed to do. Empathy is the thing that enables us to maintain relationships with other people. You are called to relationships. A matter of fact, your faith is based on relationships. You weren't called to religion, right? You were called to a relationship with God. That relationship was supposed to be a template to allow you to also love other people. And Christ said what? In these two things are all the commandments. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and strength. And then if you can do that, you will love other people like yourself. Guess what? That's why two are better than one. Because you get better return for your labor. If one falls, someone's there to pick them up. But we're sorry. We actually have pity on the people who don't have relationships with other people to help them up, especially in these times. You as a community of faith are told to do what? Gather together. And the beauty of that is that guarantees one thing, right? Someone's there with you. In addition, the interaction of you is supposed to be what? To encourage one another and build relationships. Guess what? Parents, your job is now, you need to model for kids the importance of relationships. And you need to put emphasis on face-to-face interactions. Here is the thing I see when I travel across the country and I speak all over the world. I go to a lot of restaurants because I'm constantly on the road. Here's what I see. Family at the table, doing what? Everyone on the phone. Face-to-face interactions is the only way we can have empathy. So you need to bottle it. You need to teach it. You need to encourage it so your kids can develop empathy. The second way the brain is being impacted by technology is this issue of focus. The pioneer in this research was a guy named Clifford Nas. And what Clifford Nas told us was this. When he researched people's brain, he found out the people who multitask with technology the most started losing the ability to maintain focus. So let's do a test to see how well you guys are able to focus. So there's young adults here and their parents. What's the difference between you and your kids? One, you were here and technology occurred. So you were already here. You spent years without it, and then it happened, and now you intensify use it. We now know that your brain is a little less impacted than your kids because your kids were born into technology. So here's the test. All you have to do is think for me, when's the last time you sat down to watch a 30-minute television show? You got it? 30 minutes? Think about it. Okay, you got it. Now, when you're watching the show, in a couple minutes, did you say, I'm pretty busy, I need to get some work done. So now you're doing some work and watching the show. A couple minutes later, did you go, I better check my email. So you checked your email, you're doing your work, you're watching the show. A couple minutes later, do you say, there's some things on the web I want to check out. So now you're surfing the web, checking your email, doing your work, watching the show. Then you look down at your feet. There's a perfectly good iPad doing nothing. You could be streaming another video or playing a game. So now you're playing a game, surfing the web, checking your email, doing your work, watching the show. The show is over. What happened? Hell if you know. The human brain can't multitask. Now, in the early days of our research, we know that 0.02% of the world's population can multitask. Some researchers have come on lately and said, it can be all the way up to 7% of the population. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. 0.02 to 7% can multitask. That should tell you what? It ain't you. You can't multitask. We cannot Then how do I not know I can't multitask? Simply, your brain does not focus consciously on two things. It's called conscious brain and subconscious brain. Subconscious brain says you're monitoring, but you don't know how well you're monitoring. So two things. One will be conscious monitor, the other is subconscious monitoring. Whatever is being monitored subconsciously drops in performance. But you're not aware of it because it's subconscious. So let's say you're doing 3 things. The drop is more severe. Drop, drop. 4 things. Drop, drop, drop. So the more you multitask, the worse it gets. Now, you still have this thing called low sensation-seeking neurons, and you have these things called high sensation-seeking neurons. Low sensation-seeking neurons is what you need to be able to do deep thought. You're reading a book. Low sensation-seeking neurons activate so you can focus. When you open an email, high sensation-seeking neurons activate. Every new email you open, they activate again. For you to listen to a sermon, you need what? Low sensation-seeking neurons to activate so you can pay attention. Every time you open another website, guess what happens? High sensation-seeking neurons activate. We used to activate high sensation-seeking neurons very little. Now we're activating them all the time. We found out something about high sensation-seeking neurons. They're greedy. You feed them, they want what? more stimuli faster. You feed them, they want more stimuli faster. You feed them, they want more stimuli faster. And as a result, now we're addicted to what? Getting more stimuli. I'll prove to you how this impacted you. Early days of the internet, you could go up there and read articles, right? Now most of you having this happen. You go to a site, you start reading an article, you get to 2 paragraphs into it, you go, I got it, you go someplace else. How can you say that about us? Research shows that adults average 1 minute to 3 minutes a site. Teenagers average 55 seconds or less per site. That means we're getting stimuli, we're getting stimuli, we're getting stimuli. So we're addicted to stimuli. That means we can't focus. Guess what? Focus is more important than you think. We know a few reasons why focus is important. The first thing is focus is critical for maintaining the health of your brain long term. Genetic risk of dementia is about 15%. Right now, we think everyone who interacts with technology this way is at risk of dementia. How can you say that? We studied 2 groups of people who maintain some single task activities throughout their adulthood and people who multitasked all the time. The people who maintain single task activities, that means they only did one thing when they were doing it, they didn't multitask all the time, they had a stronger connection between their prefrontal cortex, the parietal cortex, and the insula. That is called the triangle. That triangle, being healthy, strong white matter, better connection, is critical for defending against dementia. People who multitask all the time, we saw the triangle, white matter, get weaker and weaker and weaker. That's why we're having a spike in dementia. Do you know you cannot be the performer you want to be? You cannot perform to your optimal ability unless you were to start doing some things. They looked at Marines going deployed into theater to do the same exact task, 2 groups. The only difference is they did some focus training for one group. 12 minutes, 8 weeks. Then they deployed them both and tracked what happened. The folks who improved their focus before deployment had better memory. The folks who improved their focus actually did not succumb to many of the things military folks succumb to. PTSD, depression, anxiety. The folks who improved their focus did their job better, performed at a higher level, even under pressure. We now know you need focus to protect your brain from emotional disorders. They looked at folks suffering from multiple bouts of depression. And what they found was this. They had same exact treatment, 2 groups, but one group they said, okay, let's improve their focus. And what happened? Recidivism went down. We now know all anxiety-based disorders are reduced if you have a strong prefrontal cortex. People who maintain focus end up doing better. I am not talking about going away from technology. I love technology. Technology is a lot of good things. My company does technology. We want you now to live better with technology. So I'm going to give you 3 ways you can improve your ability to maintain focus. 1, be unplugged 1 hour every day. What does unplugged mean? No interaction with technology. No, it doesn't count if you're sleeping, smarty pants. 2, if you can't maintain focus for 30 minutes, your brain needs to improve its focus. You don't need to buy an app. There are many ways you can improve your focus. I'll give you a proven way that's been studied. Set a timer for 30 minutes. Read a book, have a journal. At the end of the 30 minutes, the alarm rings. Write down in the journal how many times during that 30 minutes your mind wandered off task. Do that for 2 weeks and you'll find the number of times your mind wanders will go down. You'll improve your focus. 3, you need to have certain things in your life that are single task activities. That means you do it, you don't multitask. You go jogging 3 times a week, single task. You go jogging with headphones, no longer a single task. You need some single task activities to survive. Now, what should you do when you're unplugged? What should you do when you're unplugged? Well, they started looking at people's brains. By the way, the resting level of cortisol, that stress hormone, is higher in every adult in America than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. There's a big spike in cortisol level resting in every adolescent in America who are not under stress. Our cortisol levels are higher, and because we're intaking so much information. Okay. Well, they found out what kind of things recalibrate your brain. They found out people went out into nature and actually were present. That means they were present in the moment. They saw what they saw and they looked at it. It could help recalibrate their brain. They found out you can recalibrate your brain if you start to think about more positive things instead of thinking about negative things. It not only recalibrates your brain, it makes your brain healthier. Well, Paul understood that. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, what is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. If you can get this mindset, guess what you have? Contentment. We now know happiness has nothing to do with external factors. Something external can make you happy, but that's momentarily. What we found out is happiness has to do with your disposition. Can you view the world in a more positive light? When you do that, your brain chemistry is not only positive all the time, it tends to be stronger. And people who can do that, guess what happens to their brain? Their brain is able to rebound from crisis better. It makes them more resilient. So, here's what contentment really is. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Folks, parents are going to have to be able to model and concentrate on certain things. You're not telling your kids not to interact. You're just saying interact a little different to protect your brain, because this is critical. And yes, you can spend an hour unplugged. Are you aware that there's no rule that you don't have to go to the potty with device? I'm serious. You can be unplugged for 1 hour. You can build your focus back very quickly, and once you build it, just maintain it. You need it to be the best you can be. And you need to have some single task activities that you say, when I do this, I will not multitask. The third way technology is impacting us is this area of discipline. And this might be the most important thing in relation to success in life. Do you know that you are called to be disciplined? Our brains are designed to be disciplined. How do I know that? Well, the brain was designed to reward mundane, everyday activities that you do regularly. It's called healthy habits. Any healthy habit you have, guess what? The brain says, if you're going to do this all the time, let me help you out. And how does the brain help you? It secretes a thing called dopamine in a part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens, which is the reward pathway. So I like to say it's like making your bed. How many of you make your bed every morning? Okay, let's talk to you. Haven't you ever woke up one morning and said, this is stupid? No, think about it. When's the last time a stranger saw your bed? 30 years ago? Okay, so you make your bed, no one sees it, you come back and undo it to do it again. Good time management. Well, it may not be great time management, but it's good brain management. Let me explain. You probably had to do it as a kid. Your parents, make your bed, make your bed, make your bed. You fought, but once you got used to it, your brain says, let me help you. And every time you made your bed, your brain secretes what? Dopamine, which subconsciously makes you feel better, but also helps your balance, your homeostasis. You're centered. You're more balanced, able to do it. Every mundane, regular habit you have, the brain is decided to help you out so you can be a person who can do what? Get up and go to work. Go to bed on time. Do things like homework. The brain's supposed to help us do these things. Here's the catch. There's a study that happened recently, and they started studying some adolescents. And what they did with these adolescents is they did a brain scan, then they tracked them over years. And then they polled them and they said, how frequently do you check your device? And they had a group that was habitual checkers. They couldn't stop themselves from checking. They were checking it every couple of minutes. Check. And guess what they found? the habitual checkers kept on losing gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. What's gray matter? Gray matter says how well a region of your brain works. If you lose gray matter to the prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain that's the most important. It is the most evolved part of the brain. It's the part of the brain that enables us to make rational decisions. It's the part of the brain that helps us make good moral decisions. It's the part of the brain that controls our emotional brain. This is the part of the brain that helps us control our thoughts, control our actions, control our emotions. If you lose gray matter there, guess what happens? Your discipline drops. Then we found out it even impacts our behaviors. They looked at the folks who were checking all the time, and they found out what happens. Remember, your brain's designed to say, I get up, I go to work, I get dopamine. I make my bed, I get dopamine. I go to bed, I get dopamine. But they found out the folks who were checking all the time, they got dopamine artificially, quickly, all the time. Dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. And then suddenly thing happened with the brain. The brain decided, well, it's going to take much longer now for you to get dopamine for healthy habits. Well, that's called reward deficit syndrome. That's an aspect of almost every emotional disorder. What's a reward deficit syndrome? It means it impacts your ability to be a successful, healthy person. You know John. John's the dude who's had 12 jobs because he can't hold a job. Why? He can't get up and go consistently. You know John. He's unreliable. He says he's going to be there. He's not going to be there. You know John. He can't maintain a relationship with anyone, anytime, long term. You know John. He's unreliable. And you know what, for John, since he doesn't get dopamine from those everyday things, we found out John is more apt to get dopamine for high-risk behaviors and substance abuse, because that gives you dopamine too. Well, poll any parent in this room. What do you want for your kids? You want kids that have this brain that secretes dopamine with mundane things, so that when you send them off, you can have a level of confidence that goes, he's probably going to get up and go to class. Shocking. He will probably do homework. He will probably get better relationships. I want this dude because this dude will grow up to be a person who's able to do mundane things like go to work, make relationships, raise children. We are called to be disciplined. Hear the words of Paul, who said, do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do this to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly, and I do not box like one beating the air. I discipline my body and mind to be under control. In this age, you parents are called to do something very different. You're called to say, listen, I'm not being a bad guy when I ask you to do chores or get up at a certain time or go to bed at a certain time or do mundane things. Because if I can get my kid to do certain things consistently on schedule, their brain will secrete dopamine in the way it's supposed to. And this will enable them to go out there and be a consistent person in the world. I believe God created our brains. How do I know this? Well, the way belief works. We are designed to believe. Our brains are actually designed to believe. Our beliefs are actually held in a place called the amygdala, which is the emotional brain. All information comes through the amygdala before it reaches the prefrontal cortex. Do you know if I were to tell you something that challenges your belief, your amygdala will get hyperactive to protect the belief? Do you know those microsarcades I was talking about? They're also designed to spot things in the environment that support your belief so your belief becomes stronger. The amygdala, by the way, is an action system. It's not a thought system. So that's why we neuroscientists know something really interesting. Our beliefs, true beliefs, not cognitive beliefs, true beliefs drive us to action. And it doesn't even matter if no one else believes but me, because if I'm a true believer, guess what? I'll be driven to action. Look at the history. What happens when humans believe? There was a dude who thought the world wasn't flat, and he sailed beyond a certain point. There was two brothers that thought they could fly, and they achieved it by building this contraption that got into the sky for 59 seconds. We now know our beliefs are so strong that we exceeded the speed of light. We've walked on the moon because we believe so strongly. This is what neuroscience says. You only believe the parts of the Bible that you do. I'm sorry, that's the way it works. So we are at a crossroads at this very moment. You can cognitively believe what I'm saying, but it's not true beliefs unless there's an action. Here's the problem. The math says 3 to 7% of the population is able to take information in and do action right away. That means the rest of you are screwed. Oh, there's a way to help you. We found out if you take the information in and immediately discuss it and make a decision to do at least one thing, action can occur. So here's what I'm asking parents to do today. Sometime today, not tomorrow, not later in the week, because the chances of that happening, low. Sometime today, sit down and say, what did you think about what that crazy person said? And then if anything I said today resonates, think about, okay, is there one thing we would like to change today going forward? If you can do that, you increase the probability that you and your kids can have a healthier brain. Here's the other problem. The word is isopraxism. Isopraxism tells us something about the brain. If I see more people doing something, I am more compelled to do it. Well, I go into a restaurant. I'm sitting at the bar because I'm by myself traveling. I look up down the bar and I see what? Everybody on their phone. I go, oh crap, I better get it out. Because I'm compelled by the numbers. Well, remember that phrase you used to say to your mom? Everybody's doing it. And what did she say? If everybody was walking off a cliff, would you follow them? I hated that phrase. Well, there is a truth today to everybody's doing it. Remember, there's some people who are what? Compelled to check. But you know, right after that group, there's another group that was really large, frequent checkers. That means if I go any place in the world right now, if I go out there, I will see what? Majority of people doing it. And it's hard to change the pattern. I am telling you this. You're not trying to stop it. You're just trying to modify it. And we are called to do some modifications that are different than everything that's going on. Consider this verse. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed for what? By the renewing of our minds, then we will be able to test and approve what God's will is. His good, pleasing, and perfect will. So I'm going to close today with a verse. It's the most common verse for ending a Sunday service. We're not going to bow our heads or close our eyes. I'm going to stand with our shoulders framed up and our eyes open. Why do I want you to pray like this? Because your body position changes your brain chemistry. Common position for prayer is what? Head bowed, eyes closed. Wonderful. It secretes hormones related to submission, humility, also timidity. Okay. Many of you came to faith under this term, right? While every head is bowed and eyes are closed, raise your hand. Then most of you have spent your life praying because you've taken this verse literally. Go close the door and pray in private. Christ wasn't saying that's the only way to pray. He was saying don't be like the Pharisees and the Sadducees who basically stand and show off but don't really pray to God. But Christ also, many times, he did go away and prayed privately, but many times Christ also squared his shoulder, had his eyes open, looking to heaven, and prayed in front of everyone else. Why? Proclamation of faith. Why do I want you to do this periodically? I want you to pray periodically with your eyes open and your shoulders squared because every once in a while, somebody says a sermon about sharing your faith, and then after the sermon, they tell you what? Go out there and boldly share your faith. And you instantly go, oh crap. Well, I understand, oh crap. Because you spent most of your spiritual life doing what? Shh. Well, if you periodically pray with your shoulders squared and your eyes open, then you will actually be able to periodically proclaim your faith because your body gets used to it. That's why most of you can pray at dinner time. You can even pray out at a meal in front of public, right? Because you're used to it. But to show you how much sharing of faith is so tenuous, I can guarantee that some of you are married 30 years and have never heard your spouse pray out loud except for the dinner table. So, everyone standing up. This is the most popular closing verse in the sermons, and I want you to look at this. It is God's desire. It's always been God's desire to protect the brain that he created. Altogether, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And the church said,